Another day, another story. SpaceX caught a rocket booster on its Texas launch pad as it returned to Earth on Sunday. SpaceX successfully tested the process of recovering its Super Heavy rocket booster using the Mechazilla tower. In a recent test, SpaceX's massive robotic arms, often referred to as Mechazilla, caught the Super Heavy booster after its launch. Welcome to Turbo Eminent Channel. This method is designed to gently grab the rocket midair as it returns from space and guide it back to the launch site, rather than using a traditional ocean barge landing. This approach aims to significantly cut down recovery time and improve reusability, a key part of SpaceX's goal to make space travel more efficient and cost-effective. The Super Heavy booster is the first stage of SpaceX's Starship system, which is intended for missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. This achievement marks a major step forward in SpaceX's development of a fully reusable rocket system. The catch method minimizes wear and tear, as it avoids landing impacts, potentially allowing faster turnaround for launches. The chopstick-like arms of the tower, called Mechazilla, grab the descending 232-foot booster after a 7-minute flight. SpaceX's CEO, tech billionaire Elon Musk, seemed to revel in the catching of the booster, stating on X that a large step towards making life multiplanetary was made today. The company's COO, Wynne Shotwell, also appeared excited at the accomplishment, posting footage of the event and saying she didn't know what to say. The booster is part of what SpaceX refers to as the world's most powerful launch vehicle ever developed, named Starship. According to the company, the Super Heavy booster is one of two major parts of Starship, with the other being the Starship spacecraft. On this flight, the spacecraft continued its flight after separating from the booster. It landed in the Indian Ocean. It was the Starship's fifth test flight and its most successful by far. Thousands of distinct vehicle and pad criteria had to be met prior to catching the Super Heavy booster, the company said in a post on X Sunday. Thanks to the tireless work of SpaceX engineers, we succeeded with catch on our first attempt. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson sent his congratulations on X, the social media platform also owned by Musk. As we prepare to go back to the moon and the #Artemis, continued testing will prepare us for the bold missions that lie ahead, including to the South Pole region of the moon and then on to Mars. It is the first time SpaceX has attempted the bold maneuver, one it sees as crucial to its goal of developing fully reusable rockets capable of ferrying humans, scientific equipment and supplies to the moon and onwards to Mars. "Are you kidding me?" said Dan Uo, SpaceX's communications manager, who was left shaking at the spectacle. "What we just saw, that looked like magic. This is a day for the engineering history books," added Kate Tice, a quality systems engineer at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The rest of Starship re-entered Earth's atmosphere horizontally, with onboard cameras showing a smooth, pinkish-purple plasma covering the ship's Earth-facing side. The ship's hot side is coated with 18,000 heat-shielding tiles that were improved since SpaceX's last test in June, when Starship completed its first full test flight to the Indian Ocean but suffered tile damage that made its re-entry difficult. This time, Starship appeared more intact upon reigniting one of its 6 engines to position itself upright for the ocean landing. The SpaceX live stream showed the rocket splashing down in the nighttime waters off Australia's coast, then toppling on its side, concluding its test mission. A separate camera view from a vessel near the splashdown site then showed the ship exploding into a vast fireball. It was unclear whether the explosion was a controlled detonation or the result of a fuel leak. Musk said the ship landed precisely on target. Commenting on SpaceX's successful capture of the Starship booster, Chris Hadfield, a Canadian former astronaut, wrote on X, "There was an enormous step forward in human capability today. Makes me even more excited for our collective future. Congratulations to all at SpaceX." SpaceX can now point to some extraordinary achievements in the past 2 test flights. This comes only 18 months after its inaugural flight, which saw the vehicle blown apart not long after launch. SpaceX argues that these failures are also part of its development plan, to launch early in the expectation of failure so that it can collect as much data as possible and develop its systems quicker than its rivals. The initial stages of the ascent of the fifth test were the same as the previous outing, with the ship and booster separating 2 3/4 minutes after leaving the ground. At this point, the booster began to head back towards the launch site at Boca Chica in Texas. With just 2 minutes to go till landing, it was still not clear if the attempt would be made, as final checks were carried out by the team operating the tower. When the flight director gave the go-ahead, cheers went up from SpaceX employees at Mission Control. The company had said that thousands of criteria had to be met for the attempt to be made. As the Super Heavy booster re-entered the atmosphere, as its Raptor engines worked to slow it down from speeds in excess of a few thousand miles per hour. When it approached the landing tower, which stands 146 meters high, 480 feet, it seemed to almost float. Orange flames engulfed the booster and it deftly slotted into the giant mechanical arms. The ship part of the rocket, which is where equipment and crew will eventually be held for future missions, fired up its own engines after separating from the booster. It was successfully landed in the Indian Ocean around 40 minutes later. Ship landed precisely on target. Second of the 2 objectives achieved, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk wrote on X, not only was the ship landed accurately, but SpaceX also managed to preserve some of the vehicle's hardware, which it had not expected. Catching the booster rather than getting it to land on the launch pad reduces the need for complex hardware on the ground and will enable rapid redeployment of the vehicle in the future. Elon Musk and SpaceX have grand designs that the rocket system will one day take humans to the moon, and then onto Mars, making our species multiplanetary. The US Space Agency, NASA, will also be delighted the flight has gone to plan. It has paid the company $2.8 billion, £2.14 billion, to develop Starship into a lander capable of returning astronauts to the moon's surface by 2026. In space terms, that is not that far away, so Elon Musk's team were eager to get the rocket relaunched as soon as possible. But the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, the US government body that approves all flights, had previously said there would be no launch before November as it reviewed the company's permits. Since last month, the agency and Elon Musk have been in a public spat after the FAA said it was seeking to fine his company, SpaceX, $633,000 for allegedly failing to follow its license conditions and not getting permits for previous flights. Currently, the FAA only considers the impact on the immediate environment from rocket launches rather than the wider impacts of the emissions. The black carbon is one of the biggest concerns. The Starship rocket is using liquid methane. It's a relatively new propellant, and we don't have very good data of the amount of emissions that are coming from liquid methane, she said. Dr. Marais said what makes black carbon from rockets so concerning is that they release it hundreds of miles higher into the atmosphere than planes, where it can last much longer. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.